What's up, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF. We've got a great show for you today. The Bengals' true stripes are starting to show. Can anyone take the win from the Ravens' wings? And the Cowboys and Dolphins continue to fail against proven teams. All that and much, much more. But first, let me get rid of this. You can listen to us everywhere you listen to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all the great platforms. You can find us socially over on Instagram and X, as well as on our own dedicated YouTube channel. Just head to any of those platforms, type in Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF into the search bar, and we'll pop right up for your listening pleasure. Before we tackle Week 9 recap, RPF, my friend, how are you this week?
Well, I don't... You said get rid of this. I mean, I want people to really to understand how much we love our broadcasting partners. Right. We love YouTube and we love Spotify and Apple and Podbean and all of the others that
it's
are
the semantics.
So
it's the house cleaning. I don't like it. I want to get into the meat.
Well, you're running through it. I want to be. Hey, everyone, just take a minute now, please. Go to YouTube, hit subscribe, hit like, and just make sure that you don't miss an episode because they're getting better and better. We're at the midseason mark at the NFL, and things are H-O-T, hot.
Buster Poindexter, if you will.
Well, that's a reference. Kids, again, you know the term. Google it.
All right, let's jump into it. Week 9. Week 9, yes. We had a couple of heavy hitters lined up on the slate, and let's check in on how they kicked off. The week kicked off with nothing super miraculously special, but Titans and Steelers. However, the only note I have here is the Steelers won 20-16, and like the Steelers, like they just who's on their team? Yet they are 5-3 and holding water, treading water in a very tough, was turned out to be a very tough.
Look, this reminds
AFC North.
This reminds all of us that coaching matters, right? Mike Tomlin is unquestionably in the top tier of NFL coaches. And I think this is, by the way, the Steelers are the only team in history, NFL history, that they have a winning record at this point of the season. They're 5-3, and they have lost the running stat every single game they played. They've been on the short side of the running game every single game. This never happened before in NFL history. Wow. I will tell you this: Tomlin he has no one playing for him. I cannot identify a single player ever. I mean, it's almost like if the Panthers emptied out their practice squad, and here's the guys that came off the UPS truck, part-time jobs, and here they are contending. I mean, they have a good defense in the playoffs. But yes, the defense. Look, obviously they've got TJ. They have Watt. They have Watt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, they have TJ Watt and his friends.
And they've got Minka Fitzpatrick.
Minka Fitzpatrick. That's exactly. I'm a big fan. In fact, I wanted to get Fitzpatrick on our team forever, and then we got Jalen Ramsey, so I'm okay. But the Steelers are interesting to watch. I mean, I think because they're like we said, they're like just nose to the grindstone. They're like literally playing the way their reputation is without the actual assets. You would think that they would need to do that. So I'm thinking Tomlin is the difference maker here, because I think he obviously has his team ready every Sunday. Any given Sunday is defined by the Steelers to me.
Yes. Exactly. They're fun to watch because every Sunday you're just like, I don't know, they might win. I don't like, no matter who they're playing. It's like, I don't know.
Right now, would you take the Bills over the Steelers?
I mean, I would, but like
I would too. If it's money involved, I would.
but the same
emotionally,
thing,
I wouldn't.
But to the point, I would tune into the game because I'm like, but I don't know.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. First game out of the gate. Unfortunately for my friend here, we had over in Germany, we had the Dolphins and Chiefs.
It's apple picking season here in our part of the world, Jonah, and I decided to go apple picking for the first time in my life during the game. So I don't really know what happened during the game.
Okay.
No, I will tell you. Okay, look,
I can tell you. The Dolphins.
You tell me your point of view, and then I'll tell you mine. Dolphins lost, yes.
The Chiefs won 21-14. And so what jumped out at me was mainly the Chiefs defense. I was shocked. I was shocked that they were able to hold Hill and Mostert and even Tua to sort of pedestrian numbers for what they're used to. Hill 62 yards, Mostert 85 yards, Tua 193. They seem to hold them in check pretty well, and this is a defense that I didn't really have, like going into the season. I was like, oh wow, watch out for the Chiefs defense. But they stepped up to me. That was what jumped out to me. What do you got? I know you have way more than that, but
yeah, I mean the defense. Yeah, look, I think it's a matter of perspective. It's almost like two mirror halves of football. The first half, clearly, the Chiefs defense stepped up, kept the Dolphins shut out for the first time, I think, God, in years, for a whole half, especially this offense, like you said.
Yeah.
In fact, and they were lucky they scored on this soul-crushing fumble, pick six type of lateral nightmare play people are not talking about, but that really was the difference maker in the game. So it's 21-0 at halftime. Game over, right? I think I told you last week that if the Dolphins were down by any amount, I'm not terribly worried because there's the Dolphins, right? So clearly it's 21-0. I'm not going to be happy about it, but I think I was coming into it thinking, okay, it's halftime. Let's see what happens in the third quarter. And the first 10 minutes of the third quarter will determine, obviously, the rest of the game. And sure enough, we come out aggressive. Mostert starts running. Hill starts getting the ball, et cetera, et cetera. So what happens? The defense. My takeaway is a positive from the Dolphins defense. We shut out the Chiefs, which is not even being talked about in the second half. Literally shut down. And every number you just said for all our players being down, or pedestrian numbers, we outperformed them. Mahomes only had where am I? Mahomes only had 185 yards. Kelsey, 3 receptions, 18 yards. Who has ever done that to him? In fact, I looked it up. 9 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying, look, there are positives here. The defense shut out the Chiefs, like I mentioned. And then you have, I think I'm viewing it as a Dolphins fan in historical context. Yes, we've lost, and I knew the narrative. I was angry at the game, how it ended, because I knew for a fact, and it sure enough is borne out, that the Dolphins, the narrative from the entire football world, including that blowhard, Colin Coward, I cannot believe he's still like barking. He's saying they're pretenders. They're not great team. What happens? You tell me what would be the narrative if that pass that Tua threw, the second to last play of the game, was wide open and he would have, as he always does, hits it right in the pocket, and the Dolphins go down and march and score a touchdown and end up winning the game. The whole narrative changes. The power ranking, we're number one. The Eagles and Dolphins are going to be in the Super Bowl. It's one play, right? And this is how it happens.
Well, no.
Also, with hang on. Also,
catching that pass doesn't win the game.
No, it ties the game. It ties the game. I understand. I'm just saying. But the narrative is always like one thing away. Football is such a bandwagon sport. It's like, literally, like we overpraise and over dramatize the losses and overpraise the victories. It really is almost like an election with the independents that are 10% in the middle determine everything. It's like a few plays that determine everything. So don't overexcite yourselves and don't over dramatize. So I tried to do that myself this weekend, which was hard after this game. But I said, you know what? The positives are this. To me, we were one play away from beating the Eagles, and we were on the way down, and then he threw the interception. This game, we were one play away from tying the game late in the fourth quarter. And then at that point is anyone's game. After that same half that we shut down the entire Patrick Mahomes vaulted offense, completely shut down. And then I'm saying we can now go on this redemption tour. Finally, our defense got healthy. Finally, we're all healthy. Look what happens. We had a great game. Remember, the 21 points, 14 of those, a touchdown of that was not the defense, was an offensive turnover. Further, I would say Bills, we lost, obviously. Eagles and Chiefs. All three of those teams we could ostensibly see again in the playoffs. Yeah. Back to back in some ways. That could be the ultimate redemption tour. So I think there's something to build on. I'm not terribly worried. We are now in the bye week, getting really healthy. We get Achane back this week. was the leading rusher in the NFL before he went down in week 4. So these are all positives. I am not, and we're heading into a part of the schedule that we should be okay. So, I'm not going to be overly worried about the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm not either. I don't think that was really the question.
Well, I'm answering questions that aren't answered from you, but certainly, all these so-called experts that are just so happy about this,
But here's why no one's paying attention to them shutting out the Chiefs in the second half is A, when they're playing with a lead, they're going to play conservative, and then B, more importantly, and you have to agree with me on this because you have agreed with me on this in past episodes, is that none of us are really that impressed with the Chiefs' offense to begin with. We've talked.
No, I understand. I understand. Yeah,
we've talked in weeks past about how the Chiefs are like, oh man, they're not really the Chiefs anymore, are they? But
the one stat, shutting down Kelsey, 3 passes for 18 yards.
Yeah, congrats, man. Yeah.
I'm just saying, let's not give it. It's not black and white. It's definitely lots of gray in here for all
Of course it is. Sides. It always is. Yeah. It always is. Yeah. But it still remains to be said. Unfortunately, my friend, it still remains to be said that the Dolphins need to beat a good team.
I agree, but I think I'd rather beat them in the second matchup than the first one. Ravens and Chiefs, Dolphins and Bengals, to me, are the class of the AFC. Jags, I'm not convinced. But so those 4 teams, and for different reasons and different stages of their development, are exactly the 4 teams that could be the 4 divisional games, I think, in the playoffs. But,
yep. Well, we will find out. Next game, moving on, we had the just mentioned Ravens obliterating the NFC contenders. We have titled them contenders. The NFC contenders, Seahawks, 37-3. RPF, what do you have? I've got a couple of takes in this game. What do you have in this game?
2 words: deeply impressive.
Yeah.
The offense, we kind of, they're kind of. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll elaborate. I'll elaborate. To me, what was so impressive was when I go and I look back into the stats, is that this was a complete team win. There is not one single player on that roster that you look at the stats and you go, holy crap, he won the game. I mean, like Lamar Jackson, 187 yards, 0 TDs. But they put up 37
I'm just going to tell you that. This was a team sport. This was a team game. It's why it's so impressive. It's not like all of a sudden they have one super. It's not TJ Watt on defense for the Steelers. Right. It's literally, I don't know who is doing anything.
I was like, oh my, like, I saw the score and I was like, oh, let me check out the box score to see what the storylines are. And I can't find the storyline. I'm like, oh, there is no
and the Ravens of old
rusher.
Remember before the season started, I kept saying, watch for the Ravens defense, the secondary, that defense, and it didn't start well this year. I'm thinking, God, they have such good players, and sure, look at them now. I mean, it's. I don't want to face the Ravens, and the Dolphins are even they play them in a few weeks. So
Would you? Would you consider them the toast of the AFC?
No, I think honestly, the Chiefs, until they're knocked off entirely, they still have that respect. I mean, practically speaking,
I'm not giving it to them.
I know.
Personally.
Look, I said, to me, the 2 teams right now are the Chiefs and Ravens in the AFC, and I think the other 2 teams are Bengals and Dolphins in the AFC, and then we have the Jaguars kind of asterisks. So I think those are the teams, and they kind of toggle back and forth depending on who won last week. The Ravens and Bengals are coming up with a bullet. The Chiefs are hanging. The Chiefs and the Eagles are kind of like winning, but are they? That type of category. So So it's interesting. It's going to be it's heating up.
What's fascinating is that this is essentially the halfway point. There is no legitimate halfway point anymore because there's an odd number of games. But
before you say anything else, we forgot to preview that in this episode. Wait for it, kids. We're gonna give the mid-season awards for the NFL from Jonah's point of view and mine. So that's interesting, like MVP, Rookie of the Year, etc.
Yes, correct. But no, I was just gonna say what's interesting to me is if the season were to end today, all 4 teams of the AFC North would be in the playoffs.
Rightfully so. They're all 2 games above 500.
Yeah.
Which I think no one in the NFC South is above 500.
I do have the Ravens. As of right now, I do have the Ravens kind of as the toast of the AFC. Then I have the Bengals. And then honestly, I'm not afraid to put the Dolphins ahead of the Chiefs. I'm really not. I agree with you. I just need to see them beat a good team. That's all. That's all.
1,000%. And that's exactly right. So,
And as I've said to you in previous episodes, my friend, you should relish in the fact you let them be the underdogs. Let them get into the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying too. Redemption Tour 2023.
Not what you said like 9 episodes ago. You're like,
I have no memory of that. First of all, I don't believe my tone of voice was that high pitched, but thank you for your reenactment. It's very accurate.
That's what I heard.
that was like Marge Simpson as RPF. Okay, oh my God. That was like oh my God.
All right, a couple other games around the league here. We had the Browns blowing
By the way,
out the Cardinals.
if we were a different podcast, you would put a blue wig on me now, like Marge right now. It would be like
little filters, yeah.
Little filters.
We had the Browns blowing out the Cardinals 27-0. Nothing to really talk about. The Browns defense is something to behold. But
how much money would they have to pay me to watch the Cardinals play the Giants?
Yeah.
Or the Jets. Oh my God.
Another game that was kind of interesting was the Bucks Texans. The Texans beat the Bucks 39-37.
Excuse me, kind of interesting. It was I dubbed it the game of the year that was completely and utterly meaningless. But I will say it was it was the most fun I watched any game last week. And 2 words for you. Oh, sorry, in 3 words. C.J. Stroud. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, hopefully, for NFL fans in general, hopefully this was kind of a coming out party for C.J. Stroud.
This was his debutante ball with the whole frilly dress and the corsage and the whole thing. He is the number 1 deb in the NFL for sure.
Let me find stats real quick, just for those that maybe didn't see the game or don't know.
I'll give you a recap. They were really good.
CJ Stroud threw for 470 yards with 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Broke the NFL record for a rookie.
Yeah,
in 1 game.
So mightily impressive, and a little foreshadowing.
470 is the total yards the Jets have had this entire season.
I might be talking about him later in the show. Moving on, we've got the Bears Saints snooze fest. Saints beating the Bears 24-17.
It's so unclear. It doesn't mean anything until it does, right? It doesn't mean anything. I don't know.
And then we had a little feel-good story, I think. The Vikings beat the Falcons 31-28 in a last-minute drive.
I wrote how did the Falcons let this happen? At home. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Vikings without Kirk Cousins and were fully expected to roll over and play dead. Now the record is they're a playoff team without a quarterback, essentially. So it's a very, very troubling game for the. It tells more about Atlanta and how they let that happen. That was a must-win for them to even have a chance to really kind of get some steam behind them.
Yes, that is correct. I agree with that. But when I mentioned the feel-good story, the Joshua Dobbs. Yeah. The Vikings, obviously Kirk Cousins went down. They're like, holy crap, what are we going to do? They trade and get Dobbs from the Cardinals, and he shows up to, Minnesota.
All, think about that.
Tuesday.
Dobbs is from the Cardinals, who has Kyler Murray injured, and they still gave up the back. So this is a journeyman. He's been on 7 teams in 5 seasons or something crazy. Dobbs, all of a sudden, this is like the stuff of like TV movies, right? All of a sudden, he steps in to this game. He literally doesn't even know. He came in, I think he was signed on Tuesday or Wednesday, and he started playing on Sunday without by the way, there was no emergency quarterback because the running back who was the emergency quarterback got hurt too. So anyway, there's no quarterback behind Dobbs. It was like insane. So he was like, and every time he ran around, I'm like, hit the deck, do not get hurt. Anyway, and then was this the game? No, was this the game that had the running back be the kicker, or was that the Browns game? Anyways, the kicker got hurt, so the running back had to kick an extra point or something. It was really funny. Anyway, go ahead.
Elsewhere, we also have the Rams, who are desperately missing their Sam Stafford, dropping to the Packers 20-3. Nothing really to mention.
The Rams now have entered the woeful sweepstakes they're entered at number 10 in the chase for the top draft pick. That's the top. If you're 10, you just suck and not bad enough to get any real good quality player.
Well, if that's the case, having lost to the Commanders, where do my Patriots sit in that?
I didn't. I kind of squinted away from the. I didn't want to pile on.
So
I think
bad.
you've suffered enough.
It's so bad. The Colts beat the Panthers 27-13. No surprises there. The Giants got romped by the Raiders 30-6. Yeah, exactly.
The Giants are DONE. Done and done.
That leads us up to two pretty good games to close out Sunday. We got the Cowboys-Eagles game, and this one gets a little interesting. The Cowboys 23, Eagles 28. The Eagles sneak away with the win here. RPF, what do you have on this game?
This to me was the bookend, like you mentioned earlier, to the Dolphins and Chiefs game. This is the losing team lost on paper, which all that matters in some ways, but in other ways, I think they had a lot of positives here. The Cowboys outplayed the Eagles up and down. They played better. I mean,
they did.
I can't imagine. I mean, Dak playing better. I mean, so in some ways, it was a circumstantial game. It was it didn't feel like a rout. It didn't feel like they were outplayed. It was not embarrassing. I think the Cowboys are okay. They're well positioned. If they snap out of I don't mind them losing when they lose like this. When they're playing well, they're executing. Yeah. They just happen to lose to a more kind of systematic team. The Eagles are kind of phoning it in and winning. I mean, I'm not, and I haven't been a fan of the Eagles even before the Super Bowl last year. I don't buy it. And sure enough, they still have the best record in football. So so there's that. So there's no, but I think the Cowboys and the Dolphins are very similar in a weird way, that they're positioned like they're idling. They're like third or fourth in their conference, and they can either do this or come way or get all the way back. So it's going to be interesting to see how they react to this.
So team stats here. Let me tell you how the Cowboys beat the Eagles in stats. So first downs, Cowboys 27 to the Eagles 20. Total plays, Cowboys 70 to the Eagles 59. Total yards 406 to 292.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And so what jumps out to me is I'm afraid that this is in fact not a silver lining loss for the Cowboys. To me, I'm afraid that this might be they're like, what else can we do? What else are we supposed to do? How do we beat these? How do we move on? And they did it. They on paper, okay, like on the stat sheet, they did what they were supposed to do, and they still couldn't pull it off. And
again, remember, it's all, to me, this is a classic example of overcompensating, getting on the bandwagon. The Eagles are unstoppable. A couple plays here and there.
No. I'm not saying that by any means.
Yeah. I'm not saying, but that's the general perception. Eagles, they just see the numbers. Eagles beat the Cowboys. Of course they did, and I don't know. I don't think this is a ceiling for the Cowboys. I think they just have to figure out a couple plays, more third downs being made, things like that. But it's not.
But that's exactly what I'm arguing, is that they don't, because they figured that out. They beat them in all of those things, and they still can't win. They still can't figure this out. I can't point my finger at what's happening, but they just
they can't either. Apparently, they can't either.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They're just in at some point they're just I fear that they're just mentally defeated. They're like, oh shit. Well, here we are again.
Maybe the Eagles are beaten by somebody else. Like a good Seahawks team or something in the playoff. so
maybe you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. All right, and then the late game, we had the Bills-Bengals in a rematch from what last year was, as you may or may not know, was the game in which Damar Hamlin suffered his cardiac arrest. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen on a football field, and obviously they canceled the game and all that stuff. So it was an emotional return for him. However, the Bengals went on to pull out the victory, 24-18.
Is it just me, or do you always say the Bengals?
Yeah,
because it makes me. Isn't it the Bengals? You've always said. Since I met you, you've always said Bengals. Isn't that funny? Like the Bengals, like the girl band from the 80s.
Yeah.
No, you say Bengals or Bengals?
Bengals.
It's Bengals, isn't it?
All right, whatever. Anyway. Whatever the difference is, we can let the viewers figure
this out.
No, I'm
just saying it's a cute way of saying it. The Bengals. I keep thinking of the 80s rock band, of the girl band. Anyway, yes, the Bengals are scary good. Ravens and Bengals are, with a bullet, completely just on all cylinders. Burrow is back. And by the way, I'm a Burrow fan. I think I was, and I know you picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl, or to go to the Super Bowl. So I think that's a good thing for the conference. Is a good. I mean, it was a very strange feeling for us for 4 weeks in the beginning of the season that the Bengals were like being blown out, and now we know he was hurt and everything else. So everything's is clicking. But it's even more impressive. Not only is this the emotional game back and all those things that were just kind of just heightened because of this game, but the Bills they couldn't afford to lose again. And they lost again, right? So it's not momentum. It's not the asterisks. It's not. It's systemic at this point. It's are the Bills the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have Mahomes slightly better than their guy. I mean, so I think that's a problem. They're relying on their all pro quarterback to kind of bail them out all the time, and not happening. So anyway, so this was a very significant and important and impressive win by the Bengals, in my opinion.
Yeah. The Bengals to me have just become very one-dimensional. To your point, it's Josh Allen and then Stephon Diggs, and if you can.
And by the way, go ahead. Sorry.
If you can shut down Diggs, just double team Diggs, and put a spy on Josh Allen and let anyone else beat you, and they won't.
Allen to Diggs is equals to Mahomes Kelsey, right? So that's the thing. And the thing also, by the way, just to let you know, the Bengals also had the hit song "Walk Like an Egyptian," in case you're wondering, for you kids out there. That's another song they can Google. All right. You seem upset with me about the Bengals. I like the Bengals. I was like, it's cute. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, please don't correct anything I say, because God knows.
No, I don't. I don't, and that's what really missed me right now. What really missed me right now.
I said Garofalo or something. I was talking about Tony Soprano. I was like, oh my god. Anyway, I've had some doozies, so I'm not even worried.
Our week 9 wrapped up with the Chargers Jets.
I call this the worst, most unwatchable performance by an NFL quarterback in my lifetime. Oh my god, how bad is Zach Wilson? Last week I said he's someone I would hang out with in high school. I don't think so. I would throw him in a locker. I'm sorry. He literally, I mean, what? I mean, oh my god. Oh my god, he is, and it's not all him, of course. The offensive line is non-existent, and he's running around like a crazy. But dude, 3rd and 4, do not run 20 yards back and fall. That's sorry. Throw the ball away. I mean, anyway, it was unwatchable. Oh my god.
Yes, he's a deer in headlights for sure.
Oh my.
All right, that wraps up our week 9. Week 10, looking ahead, I've only got 3 kind of key games on the slate. We'll get to them as we go through this sort of chronologically. But we kick off the week with Bears Panthers. And anything you want to discuss there?
Oh my god!
Listen, I want to go ahead and I want to apologize to NFL fandom nation for my partaking in this horrible beginning to Week 10 football, because we start Thursday night with the Panthers Bears, and then hey everyone, get ready for it, 9:30 game, 9:30 game. We get to wake up and have kegs and eggs with the Colts and the Patriots. Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, those are two reasons why we're grateful for daylight saving time, to get to sleep in further. Because oh my god, I'm sorry. This is a good time to empty out your closets, to organize your wardrobe for the holidays. Get the Christmas tree out. All those things.
All right, and then we also have Texans Bengals. There shouldn't be much to write home about here. I mean, unless CJ Stroud has a miraculous
CJ
game.
and Burrow have a sling off. That could be interesting.
I mean, they could, I suppose, but I think the Bengals are trending more than they're exponentially trending, if you will. Then we have Packers Steelers. Listen, the Packers aren't that great, but I'm sure this will be like a 3-point game, but the Steelers will win.
Right, exactly. 17-16 or something.
Titans Buccaneers. At this point, the Bucs are kind of reeling a little bit. I've lost faith in them as my sleeper pick.
Derrick Henry, I think is the X factor there. I think the Titans take this one.
I think they've gotten some new life with that new quarterback they got there. I forget his name, but took over for Tannehill and is doing a pretty good job. Next one is a key matchup that I have here. The Browns Ravens. This will be a good one.
I think. Look, unless is Deshaun Watson back healthy?
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is the game of all for all the naysayers, and I'm pointing to me as well. for Deshaun Watson. I mean, this is the game he can say, okay, I'm actually in that conversation of elite quarterbacks, at least top of the second tier. This is the game, because if he can stand up and say and play nose to nose and be 24-24 in the fourth quarter, then we have a discussion. Until then, I think Baltimore has to win this, right? I mean, I think they win this by 2 touchdowns, but if they don't, then maybe Deshaun Watson has something to say. So we'll see.
I think it'll be a great if you're a traditional football fan. I think it'll be a great defensive smash mouth game.
And the Ravens didn't have that defense even a year ago, so I think that's been the surprise and the difference maker for the Ravens.
Very much so. Year. Next game's a key game as well. We got 49ers Jaguars, and listen, I'll be honest. At the beginning of the season, not even less than 4 weeks ago, less than a month ago, I wouldn't have had this as a key game because I would have figured the 49ers would just steamroll right through them. But the 49ers are hurting. And the Jaguars appear to be playing pretty well. So this has all of a sudden become a very interesting game to me.
This is the one game that's a pick'em in some ways, because I think the trajectory is going opposite. The train's going in opposite ways, but it's still the 49ers. They still have those key players. I think, and by the way, just for selfish purposes for me and my fan base, if the 49ers win, they do help out the Finns and the Bengals and everyone else in the AFC, because they bring the Jags a bit down to earth and back to realistic numbers. The Niners, it's hard for me to comprehend they would lose 4 games in a row. That's a month of football.
It is hard to comprehend.
I don't think they do. I think Jacksonville's weather, being in Jacksonville, is kind of similar to what they're experiencing in San Francisco now. So I think that helps a lot. And I think it's a matter of, again, it's just not as difficult a task as, say, playing, the Ravens in Baltimore. I think they're okay. I think they'll sneak out a win, and the ship will be righted slightly, or enough to sneak in a win. And the Jags cannot be all of a sudden the hottest team in football. That's just rude. That's just
that's just obnoxious. Don't do
the
that.
Brett girls already. By the way, did you see the telecast with Peyton and Eli?
That was fantastic.
The Manning, and you saw the Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence hair off discussion. Yes, and you see the picture of Herbert with that flowing hair going back, and Herbert says that his hair is better because Trevor Lawrence does more shit to his hair. I told you, our resident expert and football fan Marco told us that Trevor Lawrence is not only is it highlighted, it's cut with precision cutting. It's that is Rodeo Drive Beverly Hills haircut. That he says that's a $200 haircut. That's not some barber named Sal in the corner. That is well maintained Brett girl status. I want a hair shampoo commercial at the end of the season hair. So anyway, so good for Herbert for pointing that out. Because Herbert looks more like the wash and go pert guy. He just washes his hair with soap or something, and he walks away.
the old 3-in-1, the old body wash, shampoo, and conditioner all in
right. That's from Gillette. Because men don't have time to wash their hair properly. And then you have Nakua. What's his name? the receiver.
Say it with me. Puka Nakua.
Puka Nakua. His hair is fabulous too. So this is going to be, I think we should do a superlatives, non-football superlatives at the end of the year for awards. I think that's going to be very important.
Okay. I like it.
All right.
I like it. All right. Moving on. We've got Saints, Vikings. We've got Falcons, Cardinals. Nothing to write home about here. Next highlight game I have here, next key game, I've got the Lions Chargers. Yeah. So I do expect I do expect my Lions to win. However, I do have it highlighted because to me, it's kind of like if the Lions want to be the team that we all want them to be, or they want them to be, if you will, they need to go in and just win. That's
what I said. If they want to be great, they have to go in and show up. Yes. Exactly right. Yeah. And the Chargers are not that great. By the way,
they're not that great.
And they're not that game we just talked about, the Chargers won because of their opponent, how bad they were. Because the Chargers do not look good. Herbert does not look good. Yep. I'm sorry. He doesn't look like he's a top. I don't feel bad. And for years, 2 or 3 years, I've been made to feel bad that Herbert was not chosen, and Tua was. I don't feel Herbert is that great, at least for this minute. So I think the Lions have to step up and really make it their game. I think they will. This is a game where I feel like, it's one of those games where each possession they need to be getting points, whether it's field goals or not, but they need to be moving the ball pretty much every single
give or take.
This is the offense from last season has to show up now for the rest of the season. This is where the game begins. I think you're right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Giants, Cowboys. Listen, this is one of those games that, like, I have this one marked as, like, just because it's because of this division in particular.
No. They lost. The Giants have no quarterback.
I understand, but this is because.
Let me be clear. They do not have a quarterback.
Because of this division, this is one of those games that could be. I would not be shocked if Cowboys will win.
I will smash my own face.
I would not be
the
shocked
live podcast next week
if it's like fourth quarter and it's like, oh my god.
No, I literally cannot. I mean, at that point, if I'm Jimmy Johnson, I would not Jimmy Johnson. What's his name? Who's the owner of the Cowboys?
Jerry Jones.
I know it's a JJ.
Yeah, it's
JJ.
The other
Jerry Jones. At that point, Jerry Jones goes to the locker room and just like takes a white glove and slaps all the players across the face. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, no. The Giants don't have a quarterback. The quarterback they had was terrible. Now they don't even have that. So I don't listen. If the Cowboys this should be 31-3. If it's any more, then they should all be slapped. Sorry.
Correct. All right, moving on. Unfortunately, we don't have anything else to talk about the rest of the games. We got Commanders, Seahawks, Jets, Raiders, and Broncos, Bills. I'll tell you what. Monday night, Broncos, Bills. If this game is close, you got problems, man. You need to show up on Monday night against the Broncos and obliterate them. If you want,
the game is important.
If you want to step back into the conversation.
Do you know who's the most at risk for this game? Our friend, the Broncos head coach. Because if he shows up on a national audience after the Jets performance that was so abysmal this past week, and the Broncos get beaten or showed up or whatever it is, the patina of his Super Bowl run, of his playoff teams, of his heyday with the Saints, all that can be at risk. I think he has to show up and just really, really tell Russell Wilson, please win this game for me. Because if not this team, his next coaching job is in peril because he needs to win this game, I think.
All right. Well, that wraps up our look ahead. Let's jump into RPF. It is the halfway season, halfway point of the season.
It is are we calling it the RPFs? No, we're calling them the Midseason NFL Awards.
Yes.
Or otherwise known as the RPFs.
Right.
Okay, well, so I think the categories are.
Well, hang on a second. I mean, I voted too, so my name doesn't get put on the award. Like,
how about the Sports of Course Midseason Awards? How's that? The Sports of Course Midseason Awards.
Jesus.
Fine. Jeez, so touchy. Okay, fine. Okay. All right. So, let's talk about the categories.
It is halfway through the season, and we are picking. So, just to be clear, I went with if the season were ending right now, not projecting anything into the future. If the season was ending right now.
That's exactly right.
Okay, what do you want to start in any particular order?
I think bottom to up. I think we start with Coach of the Year and then work ourselves up.
All right, Coach of the Year. This one's easy for me. Oh, it's not easy, but this one I had. The head coach of my very own Lions, Dan Campbell.
Which was, by the way, ironically, my pick as Coach of the Year, my prediction for Coach of the Year in the before the season started.
Yep.
So obviously the Lions are 6-2. They're performing. No, I won't say they're overperforming. They're performing at expected levels ultimately, but their offense isn't as potent as we thought. Their defense isn't as bad as we thought. So it's kind of like washing out,
Yeah. Go ahead and give me your Coach of the Year, and I think I know who it is, and then I'm going to say what I was going to say.
Correct. I have honestly, and you'll be surprised how much I did struggle with this, but I think Mike McDaniel is the Coach of the Year for the Dolphins, and I think Mike Tomlin was a really close second to me. But Mike McDaniel, because of his scheme,
is a great pick.
Tomlin right now is really to me on the heels, right on. To me, it's 1 and 1A kind of thing. McDaniel just because what he's brought to football. How he's changed the game in the offense, how his schemes, his constant motion, his double fake. Everyone has to adjust to him. That's coaching. to me. That's actually coaching and scheming. That's what he motivates his players. He does it with love and humor. He's irreverent. He's a breath of fresh. He's a breath of fresh air to the football game. I mean, by the way, Campbell is that way too. He's like this big lug that we want to hug. That he's a good guy. He's
so here's what I was going to say.
I like your pick too. I mean, it's not like.
So here's what I was going to say is that being upfront and honest, the Lions are very in my opinion, are very much like the Dolphins. And so Mike McDaniel was kind of my second pick. They just haven't beat, so this is what I was getting at. The Dolphins haven't really beat a great team yet, but kind of neither have the Lions. So it's like, it was kind of like they're kind of here and here. I just, Lions are sitting at 7-2. I forget who they've played, but they did
6-2. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 6-2. They've got 2 losses to the Dolphins, 3.
Well, the Dolphins played one more game, but yeah, I listen.
To me,
it's the same team, a parallel team.
To me, so if you're getting the coaching styles, to me, Dan Campbell is the guy that all the players will run through a brick wall for. Whereas Mike McDaniel is the coach that like the players are like, this guy's kind of out there, man. But
I don't think so. I think
no. Well, but they're like, but he's like a genius. So they're like, so I trust him. But like
they like him, and they will run through that same brick wall for him. But he makes it about them. Like, do it for you. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. I think, look, it's a different style. They're similar in many ways. They're very kind of like they're player first coaches, and that's in this league of egos and money. If the players are playing for you, that's how. And who wasn't that way for Miami? The guy who's now the defensive coach in Minnesota, who was our former head coach that literally thought Tua was the worst quarterback ever. So I think that's the shift, the radical momentum shift in that locker room makes Mike McDaniel to me, and also the scheming, the play calling, the actual skill he brings to the game to change the game of football. It's a big deal. I think he's great. So
all right, comeback player of the year. Who you got?
There's only one, right? Mr. Hamlin.
It's got to be.
To echo what you're saying. I've never felt what I felt when I saw last year. When I couldn't understand what I was watching. I could not believe I was watching this, and it was the most heartbreaking and scary and emotional. I mean, I don't get emotional about football. I do, but I don't talk about it.
Yeah, well, but, hang on a second.
They're cheating, those referees. That never happened. Anyway, but to me, the beauty to see this guy come back in uniform. Yeah, I mean,
that's exactly it. I could care less if what his stats are. I mean, just the fact that he stepped on to a football field and played another snap. I'm like, you win.
And his attitude and his grace and his now he's working to help other people understand that this could happen to them. All of it in a bow, no question. Unanimous pick. Next topic. Yeah.
Next topic: defensive rookie of the year. This one was hard.
Devon Witherspoon, Seattle Seahawks cornerback. I mentioned him before in a couple episodes. He's had 2 pick sixes. He stuffs the run. He hits harder than anyone since Ray Lewis. This guy is the real deal. He is playing for a team. And look, Seattle lost like by 30 points this past week. Not one pass went his way. So that tells you the respect that the people have for him and his talent. I think he is on the verge of explosive stuff.
He's got 1 pick six.
Oh, right. He had one to the 4-yard line. Sorry, technically speaking. Anyway, the point is that he is a very, 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 very solid pick for me.
What I'm looking at, he's got 1 interception on the year for 97 yards.
Was it a fumble return? Maybe it was a fumble return. It was something that he forced a fumble and whatever. Oh my God, Jesus. Anyway, the point is he's a great player.
I expect nothing.
Let me get ready to fact check your pick. Go ahead. Okay, who's your pick?
I mean, defensive rookie of the year is hard for me because defensive players just don't get a lot of love. Period. And then B, most of the rookies don't really perform
or play every down. Even,
they don't really jump out at you. But I went with Jalen Carter. I mean, honestly, only because he's got 4 sacks.
So he makes his presence known for sure.
He's got a sack every other game. So kudos to him.
Yeah, I mean he's top 2, top 3 for sure. I mean he's definitely It depends. Let's see what happens next. But
I think what I'm saying is I think it takes a little longer, typically a little longer for defensive players to sort of mature and get into their role and then start dominating and being an Aaron Donald or a TJ Watt or those types of people. Whereas offensive players can kind of, if you're fast and you have good hands, like you can just run a route and catch a bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah, I think for the defense, for a rookie, like someone like a couple of years ago for Miami, Jalen Phillips had such speed, like he's like a Jason Taylor type of speed around the corner. That's how you can make yourself known quickly, the type of thing. So yeah.
All right, offensive rookie of the year.
See,
this one to me became a no-brainer last weekend.
There's no discussion. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, there's right, exactly. But before last weekend, maybe there was a discussion, but last weekend, CJ Stroud said, "Nope, I am him."
Do you know who was going to be Achane? Like I mentioned, he was leading the NFL in rushing after week 4 as a rookie for the Dolphins. He was. Who else was going to be? He was up for the Offensive Player of the Year. He's coming back. He's coming back. But I think right this minute, like you said, the season ends. There's no discussion. It's CJ Stroud.
Of course, yeah. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. All right, defensive MVP. Who you got?
I got Mr. Scary. I call him Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Don't want to face him anytime soon, anywhere in life. There's players like this. There's TJ Watt. There's him. There's Bosa. There's these players that just make themselves like Aaron Donald. They're just There's what's his name, Micah Parsons. There's these players that are just don't want to get in their way, and he's stepping up more than. I don't think that the Browns are even in the conversation without him on that team, and I think that's an impact player. Yeah,
could be. I've got Max Crosby.
Yeah, he has a lot of sacks.
Not just sacks, but tackles. He's got the whole gamut going. So, he's leading. He's a half a sack behind the leader. So the league leader's Daniel Hunter of Minnesota. He's got 10 sacks. Max Crosby's right behind him, as is Myles Garrett at 9.5. However, Max Crosby also has 30 solo tackles and 21 assisted tackles to Myles Garrett's 14 and 6 respectively. Again, like defense is just something that doesn't really get in the limelight, so I had to go and look up stuff. And
in the same way, in my universe and my friends, it's in the Dolphin world. It's Chris Wilkins. Without Wilkins, for us, he has 4 sacks and he stopped like 24 tackles or something. That without Wilkins, the Dolphins are not even 6-3. You know what I'm saying? So that type, it's exactly right. It's like that. It's in the trenches. It's those people that are just stopping everything in front of them. So.
Yep.
I agree.
All right. Offensive MVP, non-quarterback, right? Is that what we're doing here?
Well, offensive player of the year, yeah. Offensive player of the year, I think without question, is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is on pace for 2,000-yard season. No one's ever done 2,000 yards as a wide receiver. People forget, yes, the speed. He is Cheetah. That's his name. That's his official name on Instagram. That's his nickname. But he's literally, I tower over him. He is like, 5'8"? He's literally, unbelievable. He's up against these D-backs that if they can get physical with him, they would think that you would throw, but he's winning more than 50% of the 50-50 balls. He's not just speed and running away, which he does more than anybody, but he also contends for catches. And that's why I think Tyreek Hill, undersized, he had to talk about, your favorite phrase, chip on the shoulder.
Size should have nothing to do with it. Size should have nothing to do with you weighing into your MVP race.
You should ask the women in our audience. I don't know. That's a whole different discussion. I think for Tyreek Hill is as impressive. He's as impressive an offensive player. You know why? Every single week, every single defensive coach has to say, "What's Tyreek doing?" That's an impact player that has to be considered. All defenses are wrapped around how to stop Tyreek Hill. So that's, to me, and he's still performing at that level, historic levels. He's the offensive player of the year right
now. He's not. Christian McCaffrey is the offensive player of the year. And snooze all you want, but he's way more productive. He is leading the league in rushing. and he has 150% more touchdowns than Tyreek Hill does. And he's a guy just like Tyreek Hill. I will give you that, just like Tyreek Hill. He's a guy I think that and we've seen this actually, when you take him out of the game, they can't win.
Brock Purdy becomes Zach Wilson. I know.
Brock Purdy becomes Zach Wilson. So he's much more dimensional. Tyreek Hill is, unfortunately, I'm not saying that Tyreek Hill is a bad player by any means, obviously.
No, of course.
Right.
Obviously.
But there are much more options that you can do with Christian McCaffrey. If you're going to play a 2-on-2 game, you get a quarterback and one player, I would pick a quarterback and Christian McCaffrey
first of all,
over a quarterback and Tyreek Hill.
At 2-on-2. If you played with like hula skirts and saddle shoes, what are you talking about? Football? What are you talking about? We're not playing 2-on-2 football in 8th grade. This is in the NFL right now. Tyreek Hill is on that line. Every defensive coach is holding their balls tight, okay, because they're scared. That's Christian McCaffrey is still the guy there. You have to spy constantly, but it's different to me. That's a Travis Kelce type play.
It's actually much different, right? Because you don't know who to spy him with. So Tyreek Hill, when he lines up, you're like, okay, here's how we double team him with a safety in a corner. Like, it's just, hey, you two guys go over here. When Christian McCaffrey's in the backfield, you don't know whether he's going to come out of the backfield, whether he's going to rush for it, what he was going to do. So you don't know who to put on him.
Look, to quote you just 10 seconds ago, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying to me, it is.
Christian McCaffrey is a bigger headache for NFL coaches than Tyreek Hill.
Okay. That's your point of view. That's fine. That's why we have opinions. And then we go into the MVP itself.
All right.
The Grand Poobah, the Best Picture Oscar. This is the big award. Right now, if the season ended today.
Let me get back into RPF's good graces. My MVP pick is Tua at this moment.
Guess what mine is? Tua. Listen.
So here's the big caveat. So here's the caveat for me, and it is at this moment. At this moment, he's leading in or a top 3 in basically like every category that matters. So he is. So that alone,
he's number 1 in 9 categories and top 3 in the next 6. Yeah. So.
Yeah. He's so at this moment, it's pretty cut and dry to me. I'm not going to say they're trending down, but they've plateaued to me. The beginning of the season, they were like, holy shit, look at the Dolphins here.
The team or Tua?
Dolphins, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay.
Well, Tua as well, because a lot of his stats came early in the season.
Well, listen, a lot of his stats will be coming next week when we play the other teams. So, listen,
I'm not... No. All I'm saying is they means anyone on the team. Even Tyreek's stats have plateaued. Everyone on the Dolphins was doing this, and now they're just kind of doing this, which isn't bad. I'm not saying they're a bad team. Don't get offended. They're just doing this. And if they stay there, I think Tua can maintain his MVP status. If they stay there. If they go up, obviously he maintains his MVP status. If they dip, who knows?
I think in the shows, every time we have one of these plateau games that everyone thinks Colin Cowherd, especially, and Stephen A. Smith, my 2 favorite commentators on radio, they always say, oh, the Dolphins are frauds. And all of a sudden, the following week, we win by 20, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, they're back on the bandwagon. So I think it's a matter of the Dolphins they bounce back better than any team this year in the NFL. So I think I'm not, again, like I said earlier, I'm not worried about it. I think this is like, look, if people were to tell me at the beginning of the year, we'd be 6-3, we shut out the Chiefs in the second half, we're going into the bye completely healthy, coming out of it healthy, and we have all these games in front of us.
Talk about your MVP pick.
And we're in first place well, you talk about the Dolphins as they, Tua didn't change his pronouns. I'm talking about they themselves also, because in fact that the Dolphins, they are still, wait for it, in first place in the AFC East. There's still people have to go through Miami to get that crown from them, because they're going to fight and scramble, and they're not going to roll over and say, oh, okay, we can't do better than that. This is McDaniel's fuel. This is going to be interesting to see what happens next. I'm excited about it. So That's the so Tua is right now, like you said, clearly the MVP of the NFL season with Lamar Jackson with a bullet. By the way, I'm seeing him hanging out. He's second place right now to me. So
yeah.
Lamar, he's not convincing you.
No, I mean, and that's that.
Listen, don't the Patriots play the Ravens soon?
That's an homage to Tua. Like I know. I don't see.
Don't the Patriots play the Ravens soon? Oh my God.
I hope not. Jesus.
I think so. I think if the Dolphins play them, I think you play them too. So.
Now I have to look it up. Now I don't even want to look at their schedule. Why'd you do this to me? Why would you do this?
That used to be your Patriots.
I was looking at the Dolphins schedule, and that is quite the cupcake schedule going forward.
Yeah, cupcake. Yeah, we have the Cowboys, we have the Bills, we have the Ravens, we have the Jets. Well, the Jets. Well,
okay, hang on a second. You just said. I know, said Aaron, the schedule was easy going forward.
No,
and I'm agreeing.
Parts of it. There's the Commanders, which
listeners, are you ready? Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets. Is that not cupcake?
Well, did you miss the other teams?
And then you close out the season with the Cowboys, Ravens, and then the Bills, who you just said on this show aren't that great.
Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills is a pretty scary trio. It depends on how they're trending that week. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Would it shock you terribly the Bills came back and became the Bills again? No. So it's all kind of, it's a tough ending to,
And that's also 6 games away.
Yeah, exactly. We have plenty of time to get healthier and be better. So that's good. So listen, you're very combative today. My goodness. I'm all about the positivity and love.
That's what makes a good show.
I'm like, Jesus.
All right, hang on.
Changing to us pronouns too. I was very concerned. And then we go into.
hang on. You forced me to wallow in my own misery. So I want to see what I have here.
Oh, the Patriots.
Yeah. I get the Colts this weekend. I do get the Giants next weekend, which will be misery because we'll lose.
By the way, Colts and Giants are ostensibly winnable games, so right?
Yeah, right. This is my point. It's really gonna sting when we go into MetLife and lose to the Giants.
Oh no, you can't.
I can't. You can't. And then we've got Chargers, Steelers, Chiefs, Broncos, Bills, Jets.
Literally,
so no Ravens.
I mean. There's no reason why you couldn't be 5-2 at the end of that run.
Stop it! Stop it!
I mean,
how dare you?
Ravens and Chiefs are not the ones you're going to win, but the other.
How dare you get my hopes up?
Well, you have your Lions. You have your Lions. Wait, let's get off football.
Right. Let's get off. Football.
Enough football.
Right. Enough football. Elsewhere around the
world. By the way,
of sports.
T Swizzle. After all that, but we didn't even give the update. T Swizzle did not show up to Germany. Therefore, Kelsey's numbers were clearly going to be terrible. But not terrible.
Yeah.
3 receptions and 18 yards.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So the Dolphins didn't hold Kelsey to whatever it was, 18 yards.
We had a cruel summer. I know it was kind of a. No, I really think that. I mean, is there something to this? Does she had a watch party, by the way, in her New York City apartment? Did you see this? She flew in a bunch of the wives of the players to New York for a watch party. It wouldn't be easier for her to fly to Kansas City. Just saying. Anyway, so she probably flew in like 4 of the, including Patrick Mahomes' wife. They flew them in to New York City and by the way, all the wives apparently said they were given the choice to go to Germany to be with their husbands and watching the skybox, and they chose to go to Taylor's apartment in New York. Right answer. I'd rather hang out with her and her friends. Anyway, so here we are. So football is a bow on week 9. 10?
Yeah. Yes.
9.
Put a bow on week 9. Let's head on. RPF. I've got something fascinating for my hockey self.
Basketball or hockey? Okay.
NHL. Currently the Vegas Knights and Boston Bruins are 11-1 and 10-1 respectively, which is absurd
and fun.
absolutely absurd. And so here's where it gets more absurd.
Hang on, give people a primer. Hockey doesn't work that way. You don't have
11-0
starts to the season. It just doesn't happen. Hockey, it's in the margins. The games are 2-1, and they tie half the time, and there's ties, and it's really kind of just like it's like soccer almost, or football.
Right.
Very much that. Yeah. So.
Yes, I apologize for our non-hockey fans, which is pretty much everyone. But
next week, a primer on curling. Your favorite?
Yes, it's very much. It's very much. It's like the winning the leading teams are like short, just barely above 500.
7-4-2 or something.
Yeah. Right. So yes, we got two teams that are just a couple other teams are actually doing very well as well, but these two teams jump out. But here's what really, really, really got me is I'm like, oh wow, the Vegas Knights are 11-1. Let me check this out. So I go in and I'm like, they must have somebody that's absolutely killing it. The Vegas Knights are 11-1 without a top 15 points scorer.
No more scoring, and it's all kind of balanced out.
And then
defense is really good in Vegas.
And then without where was it? I'm obviously looking at this on the fly. Without a top 20 goal scorer as well.
Right. The goaltending has been tremendous in Vegas.
It's just it's mind blowing to me that they don't have league leaders anywhere remotely to the top. Not even like top 5 or top 10.
To equate it to football, we just talked about the Steelers are 5-3 without a running game. It's
they're 5-3, but they're not
8-0, right?
7. Yeah, they're not 8-1, 7-1.
Yeah.
Anyway, hockey fans, but it's remarkable.
And the Bruins are kind of pissed. They should have won last season, right? They were favored to win, and and they were upended by the Panthers. So I think the Bruins have a lot to prove to themselves and to the league. They may not lose again. They may not lose at all. They're just in this trajectory of like F you people. I mean, watch out. The Bruins, to me, I mean, I don't want to play them if I was any team. So
that's because you don't play hockey. But
but I enjoy hockey in different ways, and we'll talk about that off camera. The other thing I'll tell you is the flip side. The flip side of the NHL, the San Jose Sharks.
Oh,
they're more like playing like the San Jose Minnows because they're 0-10-1 historically. They're outscored.
Hang on. I got to win. I'm seeing a win here.
Did they win last night?
I don't know. I'm seeing a 1-10, 1-10-1.
Oh, then they won last night. It must have been last night because before last night they were 0-10-1. They were outscored by 42 goals. It's almost impossible to do. 42 goals is not only the worst in NFL in NHL history. It is the second worst team in goal differential. Is 14 goals, to put it in perspective. 42 goals. Literally, and I'll say this slowly. Literally, the girls' hockey team at the University of Minnesota would perform better in the NHL the first 10 games than the San Jose Sharks. What is going on? That is my question.
They beat the Philadelphia Flyers last night.
I would not want to be the Flyers in that locker room after the coach berates them. What was the score of the game?
2-1.
Yeah, of course. Scintillating. Okay, so that was they probably played with an empty net. The Sharks the entire game.
They went back. This is like Patriots numbers. They went back-to-back games. They got beat by the Canucks 10-1, and then
two 10 games. Yeah, 2 10-goal games.
And then the next game, 2 days later, Thursday, 10-1 against the Canucks, and then Saturday, 10-2. At least they got 2 that time against the Penguins.
Could you imagine how difficult it is? You play hockey to score 10 goals against you twice in a row. I mean, that is just. I'm saying. Yeah. Any college team, Boston College hockey team would never perform that poorly. I'm sorry, that was crazy. So anyway, that's hockey for me. And I'll say a quick note about the NBA. I don't know if you've been watching the in-season tournament kickoff. They did a couple of cool things. I don't know if I mentioned this last podcast, but they kind of reconfigured all the arenas. So to make it look really cool, like they painted them all different colors, and they're all consistent looking, but there are different colors and different teams. So it looks cool, looks different than the regular game optically. I just saw the Heat finally are winning again slightly, but they're just barely winning, hanging on.
Slightly.
And they played the Lakers and LeBron back to Miami, and this is typical Miami Heat. Miami Heat and Tyler Hero and Bam and of course Butler had their games. We were 104 to like 96 with 4 minutes left in the game. We won 104 to 103. They didn't score in 4 minutes, and it was like, and LeBron had the last drive with 1 second left to try to win the game, and he dished it off for a 3-pointer that banged off the rim, and we won the game. But I'm saying that it's not giving me the excitement, the in-season tournament that I was hoping for. Maybe it's just early days, and the games haven't been that close except that one, which doesn't mean anything. So anyway, I don't know if you watched any of it.
Yeah, I saw one. No, I saw a score 150 to something.
Yeah.
100.
I think they played the San Jose Sharks. I think that's I think that's what they played. I think that was the defensive player. Yeah, that was pretty bad. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And one last note, if I can end it with this.
You may.
This week, right today, we're recording this on Wednesday. They're starting the ATP finals in tennis for the finals. Only the top 8 players in the rankings qualify each year. There's been like a really fierce competition to see who's going to be in the top 8. So ultimately, of course, it's going to come down to, as it's been the past year and a half, between Carlos Alcaraz and Djokovic for who's going to be the year-end number 1, which is the holy grail of tennis, besides the winning the Grand Slam tournaments. So Carlos Alcaraz is number 2 right now, and Djokovic is number 1. Djokovic endeared himself once again this past week by saying all the obnoxious things that he says. He goes, "I want every record. I don't care who hates me. I'm here to win everything. I don't care what I have to do to get there, blah, blah, blah." It's like the least gracious thing that a sport based on being gentleman and ladylike, he's just not interested in that. And there's a certain appeal, of course, in this era of raw politics and an upside down world in truths. So Djokovic is the villain that we all thought he was, and sure enough, he is embracing it. He's leaning in, as it were. And Carlos Alcaraz is taking the tact of Nadal, of Federer, of being gracious and humble and lovely and incredible to watch. So it is a good contrast in styles and personalities. So those two are going to battle it out and hopefully be in the finals next Sunday or Monday, and then we'll see what happens to the rankings. Quick note, Australian Open, only 1 week away to start the 2024 season, and that's when Nadal did indicate that he is going to come back and play 2024 season. So he's been out for about 8 months now, so needless to say, he's going to be a very interesting addition to the mix of all the stuff that's happening in tennis.
All righty.
So, something to look forward to.
All right, well, there you have it. A bow on the entire show. That's all the time we have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, all the great platforms, as well as find us socially on on Instagram and X, and our dedicated YouTube channel. Just head to any of those platforms, type in Sports, of course, with Jonah and RPF, and we'll pop right up for your listening pleasure. Go to any one of those, hit subscribe. See what I'm doing here? Hit subscribe, hit like, hit share, hit comment, do all the things.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. All right, that's all we got. I'll see you next week.